Today on the channel, we talk about a modern martial arts classic. It's 2003's Ong Bak, starring Tony Jaa, next on Drew Reviews. So guys, a while back, I reviewed Skin Trade with Dolph Lundgren and Tony Jaa, and that was the first Tony Jaa movie I had seen to that point. And to me, as much as I like Dolph, Tony was the MVP of that movie. Like I said in the review, that little man was working in that movie. And so it led me to seek out more Tony Jaa movies. And my good friend Ben the Wolf, man, shout out to you. He's like, man, you got to watch On Bond. And was he ever right? I watched it a couple weeks ago, but I couldn't put into words, what I just watched because I enjoyed and appreciated the martial arts in that movie so much. And basically, the plot of Ong Bak is you've got this village, and in the very first scene, you've got these guys basically playing King of the Mountain, running up this tree trying to get this flag. And so we establish the character of Ting, of course, played by the great Tony Jaa. And so he's kind of the warrior of this village. And shortly after, Ong Bak, the god they worship, the statue, his head gets stolen. And so they send Ting into the city, and he's supposed to rendezvous with Humale. Or if you watch the English dub version that I watched, he runs into George. Now, honestly, I don't know if I would recommend the English dub version. It's up on Tubi. I mean, it was good for what it was, but some of the dubbing is really bad, and I'll talk more about that later. But so he gets in, he finds Humale or George, and he finds out George isn't who they thought he was. He's this swindler now. He's doing whatever he can for profit. He works in this gambling house. Once he sees that Ting can fight, he goes to try to use him for his own financial gain, takes him to this underground fight club. He ends up taking out this brawler, this really quick guy with shifty feet, this dirty fighter who's like hitting him with a fridge. I really like those scenes, but the scene to me that I really love in this movie, above all others, is the chase through the market. You basically got Ting and George and this friend of George's that goes to college, this girl, and they're running, from these mobsters. And it's great. They're running through this market. There's this one awesome scene where they're chasing George, and he runs up and grabs a cleaver, and they all back off. And pretty soon, here comes this old lady with a cart. Knives for sale! And the next scene is of them chasing George down the street again. I just thought the humor in that scene was great. But there's this awesome scene where, of course, they do the whole bit where they're carrying things across the street. And so they have this roll of barbed wire, kind of like the size of a wreath. And Tony Jaa runs and jumps, arms and feet out like this, through the barbed wire, comes out the other side. That was just amazing, especially when you consider he did all of his own stunts for this movie. I just That just blew my mind. So I love that point in this movie. They're running through the streets. Tony Jaa's flipping off of things. It's amazing. At one point, these guys have him cornered, and he jumps up and runs across all their shoulders. Just what that guy can do is just gravity defying. But while they're in this fight club again, there's these mobsters who are gambling on the fights, and one of them, my wife was like, "Oh, that's disgusting." There's a guy that talks with a device because he's got a trach in, and he's actually smoking, and the smoke's coming out the hole. And I think at one point he even actually takes it in like this, and that scene was just wild. And I said, "Of course it's disgusting. He's supposed to be the villain. You're not supposed to like him." And I thought that was good. There's some action scenes later on where they're on like these three-wheeled, they're almost like little carriages going down the street, and of course the road's out. I thought that was a pretty cool little chase sequence there. There's a point in the movie where Ting has to throw a fight to the mobster's hired muscle, kind of stay alive. Then later on, we get the big fight at the end around the big Buddha's head. I thought that was a really great scene, really good set piece to finish this movie out. But yes, the action scenes in this are just tremendous. I wish I'd seen this back in the day when it came out. Now everybody kind of apes those scenes for themselves, but Tony Jaa just did it so well. Like I said, there's a good sense of humor in a lot of this. As far as things in this movie that are a little bit dodgy, the dubbing in the English version, which is up on Tubi, kind of rough. Some of it I can deal with, like Tony Jaws, and George has got on my nerves a little bit, but by midway through the movie, much like the character, I'd started to change my mind on him with the girl, whose name I can't remember. Just awful. She sounds like some kind of anime cartoon character voice. It's terrible in a live action movie setting like that, and it took me out of the movie every time. I winced every time she spoke in this movie. It was just, ah, every stereotype. It was there. The music in this movie is very early 2000s, kind of this techno pop thing. I can't be too down on it for that being a product of its time, as I like 80s stuff. And, most of the time I say this 80s stuff has a charm to it. If you were born 10 years after me, you probably think this techno pop stuff has a charm to it. So I'll let that one slide. But yes, I really enjoyed Ong Bak for the most part. I thought it was a really good action movie from the 2000s. As far as like 2000 to 2009, I think this is probably a top five action movie. As far as like this entire millennium, I think it's definitely probably top 10. I'd have no issues watching this movie again. So overall, I think I'm going to give Ong Bak a high 7.75 out of 10. We'll go 7.8 out of 10 for Ong Bak. As far as other Tony Jaa movies, I've heard The Protector's really good, so I'm definitely going to be checking that out. Let me know down in the comments if you want me to review that here on this channel, and any others that you want me to talk about. I hear the Ong Bak sequels are not that great, so I'm probably not going to review those unless there's just overwhelming demand for it. But yeah, let me know down in the comments if you want to see that. So guys, coming up next, I believe I have Firewalker with another martial artist, Chuck Norris and Louis Gossett Jr. That movie to me is one of my favorite action adventure movies of the 80s, right there with the Indiana Jones films. So yeah, be looking forward to that. Guys, if you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, I'm Andrew, and I'll see you down the line.